Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Today's webinar is entitled How to Create a High-Level or Summarized Sales Dashboard from Data Within an ERP System. So first, I just want to mention that we're not going to use a specific ERP system today. I'm not going to use any names. We have various ERP systems or template schema databases whereby ERP systems function and store the information. So how it works is in the front end of an ERP system, when you access the application, you input information into the system, and then the system will push it through to a database whereby the information is stored. Now, this information is vital for reporting purposes, and of course, to keep track of what's happening in your business or in your company. So first things first, we first need to find a placeholder for this information. The system that we mainly use is SQL Server. It's a very well-renowned system and has been in the industries for many years now. So as you can see here currently, we've got three databases, not mostly named according to their system, but there are three separate schemas here. For today's purposes, I created a database here related to an ERP system that's just named Power BI. So within this database, you will see that there are tables, and there will be views and some other programmability functions within it. We are only concerned with the tables because the tables help all the information I require in order to build the reports. So let's jump right into it, and I'm going to explain to you how I'm going to extract this information and how we're going to start building graphs and tables, and we're going to have some fun in identifying these insights with this information. So first things first is we need to open up Power BI. So from the start menu, you can just go and search Power BI, or if the icon's on your desktop, you can just access it through there. So we just wait for it to open. And as you can see, the new update actually made it a lot faster. I'm happy about that. So let's have a look now. First things first, I want everybody to notice this great new feature that Power BI has. It's the filter pane. That means there's no more need to actually create filters or create filters on your page, which gives you more space to create more visual filters. I'm going to give you a nice example of that as well later throughout the webinar. So what I usually do is just my preference. I close all these panes here, so it gives you a nicer view of your canvas, as we refer to it. So I want us to put our attention to the left top-hand side, where it says get data and sources and enter data. What we first need to do is obviously connect to the data source. So in Power BI, they make it very simple for you. You can click on get data. Just wait for it to load there. And now you can see that there are various forms of how to get the data. This is not the full list. This is just the most commonly used list. As you can see, Excel will always be right on top. Then you've got your SQL Server. You've got a great new feature, analysis services. And then if you click on more, you can see the full might and power of Power BI data source connectors. A very nice one I want to put our attention on is the Azure. You can connect straight to SQL databases, even data warehouses. They've got the new data analysis services that you can also create. So you've got your data models. You can push straight from that and get it to your Power BI data set. For today's purposes, what we're going to be focusing on is just on SQL Server database. So I can choose SQL Server database and I simply click connect. The first pop-up screen that it's going to give me is going to say it requires the server name. So if I hover over this little attention sign here, it will say you can also enter a port number. So if you want to connect it through the ports, you can also do it like that. So where do I locate my server name? It's very simple. If we move back to SQL Server Management Studio, I can click on connect, or I can click on this little connector object, and it will give me my server name. I can simply just copy that, and I can paste it into the server blank space. And if I know the database, I can put it in, but it's not necessary, as Power BI will automatically display all databases connected or linked to that server. A nice functionality is also you can do direct queries. If you want to do a direct script or SQL script, you can paste it here, but then you have to input the database name. For today's purposes, we're just going to do a normal import, and I want to choose from the list. I can click on OK. Power BI will be smart enough and realize that this is a linked server. So it will see that it's on my local host or on my computer. And as we can see, if we go back to SQL Server, those three databases have popped up within Power BI. So now I can open them and I can decide what tables or views I want to extract from them. So if I click on Power BI, it's not going to show me anything. But if I open it, it's going to show me database objects. So now I can see that there's all my tables, production, the categories, the sales items. You can either choose one at a time, or you can just choose all of them. So for today's purposes, I'm going to choose all of them. What's very nice, it gives you a preview load. So if I choose sales customer, even if I didn't select it, it will still show me what it's about so that I can get a little overview of what I am selecting. Because the reason for this is some database or ERP system databases have very unique names towards them. Sometimes the names are very confusing, sometimes they're very simple. Luckily for this one, it is very simple. Now, after I've selected all my database objects and I'm happy, I can simply click load. The edit function takes you to something called your Power Query edit mode. This is where you can manipulate some of the functions within the data itself before pushing it through to your final model of production. So I can take this information and maybe say, I don't want this to be a decimal number, I want this to be a whole number. Or I wanted to identify this as a date field, or I wanted to identify as a text field. You just do some very minor changes within the data set there. But there are a lot more technical things that can be done within it. So for today, I'm just going to load the tables directly, and voila. What's going to happen now is a pop-up will come up and it's saying that it's loading. First step is creating connection to your server, and then it's going to see does that model exist, or if it's not an analysis server model, it's going to see if the table exists. And then it's loaded. Now comes a question. Where's my data? Now I did this wonderful thing about connecting my information, but now I don't see it. There are two ways of just making sure that your information is loaded properly. The first thing that I always do is on the right-hand side with your three panes is you just click on fields. And as you can see, my tables are there. If I click on it, it will show me my columns within the tables or my headers within the tables. Another way of identifying is moving to the left-hand side. You'll see these three icons here. It's the report, it's the data, and of course, very important, your model, whereby you create your relationships between the various tables. If I click on data, I can see that there's information. And if I want to look at my sales order items, everything is there. So to me, it seems like it is successfully loaded. Now, moving along to the report canvas side, this is where you create your report. But how do I go about that? In the right-hand side, you'll also see another pane which says visualizations. Now, this is where you get some pre-populated visualizations from Power BI that helps you just visualize your information a bit simpler and more interactive. So before I jump in creating the visualizations, a very important step is to make sure that your data is correct. Make sure everything is fine. Make sure everything's ready for use. It just makes the process a lot simpler and a lot faster. So the very first thing that we'd like to do is to try and see if there's any form of relationship between all these tables here. Because what I see is I can see that there's sales order items, there's sales customers, but are they all connected into one? The reason why you would want all the tables connected into one is mostly for reporting purposes in terms of filtering. So that if I use a filter, let's say for production category, it will filter all my tables so that all the information is relevant towards one. I'm going to explain that a bit more in detail when I move along to the model icon or the model side. So very nice. As you can see, Power BI is smart enough to automatically make the model for us or to create the joins for us. So here I can see that production categories is joined with category in the production products. Very important table that I'm going to work with is the sales order items. It's automatically linked with product ID. What this means is if I were to choose product ID and I would filter for the various ID, or I'd like to filter for the product name, all my tables are interconnected with each other and everything will filter. So very smart, also part of the new update, the new model view in Power BI, everything automatically connects. I can create different views as well. If I want to see how, if I work with a lot of tables, that's where you start creating different views in order to group them together. Production items by items, sales by sales, people by people, etc. So I'm happy with the joins. It means that everything is going to work nice and it's going to work efficiently. I can go to my data and I want to stick to this one, which is of course my sales orders. I do not like these dates. I don't want to read the dates by the day, and then the day number, and then the month, and then the year. With Power BI, it's very simple. You can just highlight the column and you can click on modeling and you can see that it identifies it as a data type, as a date. So I'd like to keep it as a date, but now I can choose various options. So now I can see how I want to look at it. I want to see year, month, or day. You can choose any variety that you'd want. In order to change it in a way that you want to, you're going to use something called DAX, data analytic expressions, whereby you can change the formation of how the date ranges must look like. So for today, I'm just going to change it very high level, and now my dates look nicer. It looks more easy readable, and it's not going to take so much space in my tables when we create our data set. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create it again. I'm going to do the same for the shipment date. So basically all I'm doing now is I'm just getting it a bit neater, a bit more easier readable. Then I'm going to go, I'm happy with the way that I want to work with these tables, and all of them are connected or interlocked with each other. So now I can go back to the fun part by creating my visualizations. So first things first is there is no certain way of creating it in how you want to do it. Everybody can start their own way. If you want to start with your graphs, your histograms, your line graphs, your scatter graphs, you can start off with them. If you want to start off with your tables, which will give a nice summarized line by line information, you can start with that. There's no specific way or order in how you start with it. From my preference, I start off with a table. So the reason why I start off with a table is I can start just pushing information into it and see what it resembles and what it's displaying. Then I'm going to show you a nice trick that Power BI does is you can use that same table and copy and paste it, but you can change the visualization so that you know already what you can work with, and then you just work off the same table. I'm going to demonstrate that right now. So the first things first for sales, or for sales dashboard or sales summary report, is you firstly like to see who the person is. You know, who are the reps? Who are the customers? Who did they sell to? The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to first want to see how my reps are doing. So I'm going to go to the sales staff table, and I'm going to choose the first name and the last name so I can see who my sales reps are. I would also like to see staff ID. Maybe it's just an easier way to identify it. And then I would also like to see the total sales. So I'm going to click on the sales order items, and I'm going to choose the list price. How much did they sell for? And if quantity is important, I can place it. Let's have a look. It's going to show me how many items were sold, but it's not really telling me how much of what. So that would actually be a little bit of a redundant information. This would be good enough for me. Now, if you don't like the arrangement, it's very simple. I can just click here on the right-hand side, and I can move it around. Now I've got my staff ID, first name, last name, and list price. Now, I don't like these underscores under the names here. I can also change that. Power BI gives you the freedom of change. So I can just go staff ID, and it will change it. I can just go name. And with the last name, I can simply just say surname. And then the list price, maybe I should rather just say selling price or selling value. So selling value, value sold, it varies between people's preferences. But now I know that something's not right here. Let's say I'm the sales manager or the head of sales, and I notice that that amount is not correct. There's no way that Jenna or Carly or Layla have sold this much. I have a rough estimate of how much they sold, but it's not close to that. So what you can do is, because we are pulling all the information, you can apply filters. Remember earlier when I mentioned about how you can create the joins and the relationships with each other, this is where they come into action. So when I look at the sales orders, I can see that there's something that says an order status. So various orders can be linked to various people, of course, but they can also be in various stages. Maybe they're still being processed. Maybe it's not unprocessed yet. Maybe it's canceled. What we want to focus on are orders that are completed. This means the client has received it, it's invoiced, it's done. So now we're going to open up our filters pane. So firstly, Power BI works on 3 levels. You can do the filters on per visual, you can do the filters for the whole page, or you can do filters for all the pages. So if I were to apply order status for filters on this page, I'm just going to choose basic filtering. I know that number 4 means it's processed, and then everything will change. But as soon as I start bringing in different visualizations, all of those visualizations will be focused for orders that are equal to 4. That is a very nice functionality that just makes the reporting a lot more efficiently and effectively, hence applying a lot more speed in you creating your dashboards. So I'm going to leave it on filters full page, but I'll show you a nice example just now if I were to change it for filters based on various visualizations. Okay, so now what I've already established now, or what I've created, is just a high-level view of my staff, all the people working within my business, and how they sold as reps. Now what I would like to see is maybe a distribution, how are some of my products selling and how the distribution between them, which product is doing good, which ones are not doing well. So this is where I always say I start off with the table. So if I simply copy it and paste it, it's a free canvas. That's very awesome. So now I can leave it there, but now I don't want it as a table. I want to see it as a pie chart, or I want to see it as a donut. I like the donut. It just looks nicer. And then I can actually see that this is how the distribution looks like between my various staff members. But I already know which one's doing bad because I can just sort it from highest to lowest or lowest to highest by just simply clicking on the column header. So maybe this one I would like to focus more on the products that were sold. So once again, because we created the great model whereby everything's interconnected, I can simply go to my production category. And now this is where Power BI is very effective and efficiently once again. So I don't want the name or surname or ID. I just want the selling value. So now I can take that out and it will still keep it there. Obviously, it's going to show me a single value. Please, this is not a very effective pie graph by just displaying one value. So let's break it up a bit. Now, I'm going to take the category name and I'm going to throw it in the legend and voila. Now I can see which categories did actually well based on all the sales made by my sales reps. Also for all completed orders. So now I can see mountain bikes did the best, then comfort, then electric bikes, etc. So if I hover over it, it gives you underlining information. It's just telling me mountain bikes took 37.72% of the whole pie chart, which is always 100, and the value is 1.874 million. But now I also don't really like it showing me with a little arrow there. I want to see it as a legend. So also, you can do that in Power BI, also very easy. In the right-hand side with the visualizations, you'll see there's three little icons here. The one is format and the one is analytics. The analytics, it's going to be for another webinar, but stay tuned for that one. It's going to be very interesting. So let's focus on the format one. So as you can see, legend is not activated. So in Power BI, simple, I just simply activate the legend and now I can place it where I want to see it. I don't want to see it in the top because in the top, it forces me to click around. Maybe let's place it in the right center. That looks much better. But now it's duplicating. Perhaps I don't want to see those names, then I can take away the detail labels. I don't want to see the category, but I want to see the percentage of total. That looks a bit better to me now. Now I can see that based on the color, which is mountain bikes for the turquoise color, is 37.2%, 37.7%, sorry. Electric bikes, which is yellow, it's not showing nicely. Let's make it a bit bigger, it's 10.97. Then of course you can change the color schemes. I can play around, I can make the text bigger, and I can play around in any way that I'd like. So for this one, maybe let's leave it there in the corner because this is a very important metric for me. So whereby things you want to identify or things you'd like to see, information, insights, a nice word is a metric. So I don't like that category name, the underscore, I can just rename it and I can say category name. Category, mind the spelling. There we go. And now this title is just lingering there as well. Let's go change the title. So now I can just go simply here and I can call it sales distribution by category. Category. Now I can say I want it in the center, I want it to be dark, and I want it to stand out. And that's how fast it is to actually just create a distribution shown on your sales. So what's the next thing? Very important with sales is to show sales over time. How am I doing during the months? This is a vital part for an analyst or manager to identify certain trends on what's happening with the various months, which months were good, and then he can put a strategy onto why it was good, or put a strategy onto focus on different months in order to get it more concurrently flown. So once again, I can either decide to copy and paste, or I can just create a new one. Let's perhaps create a new one from scratch. I'm going to click on visualizations here on the line chart because the line chart is a very good graph to use a distribution over the time period or time-based demonstrations. So what's the first thing that I'd like to see? I would like to see the total sales by month. Okay. So if I want to see the total sales by month, I'm going to need a date range. But we already changed the date, so it's going to be very more simpler to identify now. So I want to see it by the order date. I can click on it. And what Power BI does, it already breaks it into 4 pieces for you. Breaks it by year, by quarter, by month, and by day. I'm going to leave it as it is for now. Then I would also like to see the total sold, which will be by those sales order items. So let's maybe work with list price and see what it shows us. Let's see what quantity shows us. Not much. Let's rather stick to the list price. I don't care how much was sold. I want to see how much value was sold in it. So now it looks very peculiar because where's my month trend? So because Power BI already broke it up into 4 pieces for you, you can activate the drill through functionality. So when you go to your line graph, you'll see there's a little down arrow. If you hover over it, it will say click to turn on drill through. So once it's activated, I can click on 2017 and voila, it will show me the distribution in 2017. And if I make it bigger, it will just keep showing more and more. If I want to go back, I can click on 2016 and it will show to me more like that. But the first drill through is quarters. I don't like the quarters. I just want to see the months. No need to go back and create a whole new one. I can simply just take it away. And now it's going to give me a nicer method of showing a distribution over months. So if I make it bigger, I will see the more months go along. Now I can see that over there is my spikes, which is for June. The down dips is for July. And then it kind of just stagnates a little bit. So if I take away day, then this is what I would like to see. I would like to see over year, and then I'd like to drill through and see over months. But for me, as a sales manager, I want to see monthly trends. And then I want to apply the filter for the year basis. So I can take away the year, and now it will show me all the months. So now comes a question. Now this is all the data over 3 years. So it's going to group them all together for January. It's going to be the January sales value for all 3 years, and so on and so on. So if I want to apply a filter, it's as simple as going back, and I can do filters for all pages. Because remember, if I want to apply the filter for 2017, 2018, or 2019, I want all the data to change, or all the visualizations. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to sales orders. I'm going to choose my order date, and I'm going to place it in there. Okay, but now something strange is happening. Because now it's showing me the days of the months, but I only want to see the year. So now I can choose various types of filters. I can choose advanced filtering. So you can say, show me values within this year, not in this year, or before this year. That will also come in a later webinar on how to work with advanced filtering and everything. And then relative date filtering, you can also say within the last 30 days or so. But I only want to see year, as it showed me here. Well, this is where we're going to have to go and do a little bit of a DAX formula, or just one formula column calculation function to extract the year from the date itself. So what I'm trying to say is I want to see that 2016 be extracted so that we can filter everything accordingly. So let's go to our tables or our data side. And I want to go to that table whereby it had the order dates, which was the sales orders. So I want to work specifically on order date. What I want to see is I want to see 2016 in a new column over there. So Power BI makes it yet again very simple. You can click on new column. And now I'm going to call this one year. So within this, you're going to use the format function. So the format function is it's going to take the value. So I'm going to say take the order date and then just leave it as it is. Take the whole thing. And then what I want you to do is I want you to place it in a year format for me. And once you're done with it, the year has been extracted. That's how simple the manipulation within Power BI can also be done. This is just based on time series formats or date time series changes. There's a lot more functionality that can be done in Power BI. So please just join us for later webinars as it's going to get very interesting. Now what we can do is I can go back here, and if I go back to my cells, it will see a little extra column there with an F there, and it's telling me it's a function applied column. So if I go to my filters now, and I take away this order date, and I put in the year, there it is. So this is going to make it a lot simpler for me. So now if I want to look at 2017, everything changes. If I want to look at 2018, everything changes. Or I can say it requires a single selection only. I only want to see 1 year at a time. If I click on 2017, there we go. So we're still waiting for some data for 2018 to come through. And that's how simple it is to actually just do a little bit of manipulation in order to get what you desire or what you achieved. I just want to show that example earlier of what I mentioned, whereby you can apply on page level filters or only visual filters. So what I can do is I can take away this year filter. And then if I take the year and apply it for year, it's only going to change for that relevant one. That's a very nice functionality within Power BI as well, because certain filters, you only want to work with certain visuals, and Power BI allows you to do that. Very simple. But I want to keep it back to the page level. So let's just take it back. I'm just going to remove it there. Obviously, the filter is still applied. And I want to work with 2017. Okay. So maybe we can apply let's put some standout figures. The standout figures are those big numbers that always indicate what's happening, like so much was sold, so much was the value of sold, these and that. That is called a card in Power BI. So if you go to the right-hand side to your visualizations pane, I'm just going to close this filter pane, and you can see that there's a multi-row card or a row card or just a normal card. I want to work with a card. Whoops, that was a mistake, sorry. So I want to work with a card, and I'm just going to choose open it for me. So it's a blank card again. So what I want to try and do is I want to express the sales value. That 2.94 there, I want to show it nice and big and bold. How I do that is very simple. I choose my card and I tell it what it should summarize. So I can go to my list price and I just click on it and it will summarize it for me automatically. So this is just giving me an indication of how much was sold. And now what we can do further, I'm not going to go into depth because that's quite a lot of formulas, is we can create something called a measure. A measure is a DAX-related formula, data analytic expressions. So in the data analytics world, you've got your DAX and you've got your MDX, your multidimensional expressions, but that's for a later webinar as well. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to focus on DAX, but not for this webinar, unfortunately. But the purpose of measures that you can create is to create various other functions, such as I want to see the gross profit that was made from this. So what I can tell the data is take the summarized value and then divide it by this and then take it from there. I can give a lot of steps in my formula in order to illustrate this. For today's purposes, it was just to create a high-level summary of how a sales dashboard can be created. So I can leave this card over here and I can rename it and I can just say total selling value. And it will change immediately. And then from here, I can just keep it there. I can rename it. I can reshape it. I can maybe even place it there if I want. I can do it anywhere. That's the nice thing about Power BI as well. It's a free canvas. I can shift things around. So perhaps I want to place this one there. I want to place that one there. I want this one nice, a little bit smaller. And now I can put more values there if I want to do. Let's say I want to see how much quantity was sold. So now I can put that there and I can just change it to the quantity. I can see that I sold 30,000 items, even though it's not going to be relevant. But this is where a nicer function also in Power BI, it's the drill through functionality or the interactivity about it. So if I were to see out of mountain bikes, I know that 800,000 was sold and takes about 33% of my total sales, but what was that true value? This is an awesome winning point. See what happens. It's not just the filter in the filter pane, but it's the filter that I can choose on my graphics as well. So now I can see for mountain bikes, the 800,000 distribution was made between these sales reps. That's how much they sold. I sold 751 and the total selling value was 840,000. And even identifies the trends, which months were the greatest. I can see that April was terrible. Don't know why, but now as a sales manager, I can delve into that part and see why it didn't do well. What was the reason, etc. If I want to go back, I simply just click on it and it will take me back to my high level. So now that I've got my selling values, I've got these cards and the quantities, maybe I'd like to see a little bit of something to do with clients because, we've got to keep our clients happy as well. So maybe let's show off which clients are the best ones and which ones are not. That will give a sales manager a nice indication of which sales target markets or segments we need to focus on. So what I'm going to do is I am going to let's visually illustrate it. Let's have some fun with it. So I'm going to take something called a matrix or a tree map. So the matrix or tree map, it's going to show a lot of blocks with colors, and it's going to base the size of the block on the amount of sales that were done. This is just a nice visual interpretation from what a donut and a pie graph does, but it looks very cool at the end. This is a very, very commonly used visual in Power BI as well, or mostly all Power BI or BI tools as well. So how does it work? Obviously, I want to see my Customers. So let's look sales customers. I want to look, let's have a look here. So obviously we would like to see who they are. So if you don't really know what you're looking at, you can go back to your data. You won't lose anything there. And I want to see at my sales customers. So these are the customers, but perhaps I want to see which shops or my bike shops that I want to see was sold better. But I know currently I only have about 3 stores. So maybe let's work with which clients bought the most from me. So let's stick to the sales customers one. And I can go there and I'm going to choose the sales customer column or table. Sorry, I'm going to choose the first name. So let's choose the first name. And I can choose last name as well if I want to, or I can see which distribution method I would like to use. So me as a manager or sales managers, I would like to see which customers were the top ones, maybe the top 10 customers. What's their name? Give me some relevant information towards them. So I'm going to choose the first name as grouping it by together. I want to see the total by sales items. I want to see the list price. How much did they buy from me? And now we can see it's just listing all the clients. And it's liking it from the biggest all the way to the smallest customer. And if you hover over it, will always give you underlining information. But excuse me, I don't want to see that. What I want to see is I want to see the top 10 clients. So how do I go about this? What you can do is you can go to your filters and you can go to first name and you can say basic filtering, but you see this top N. So I'm going to give the variable an answer or a number in whereby it must filter it for me. So I'm going to show the top 10 or the bottom. It does not matter. Show me the top 10 clients by value, sales value. And if I say apply, it changes. So this is giving me a nice high-level shocking color. We can change the colors as well. But it's going to give me a nice visual aspect of what is happening. Who are my customers? But now it's not giving me enough. It's just telling me Adina. Who is Adina? And who is Che-Main? And who's Milani? And who's Abram? And who are all these people? So this is where tooltips come in. So if I go back to my sales customers, I can actually apply a first name tooltip. I can apply a last name. I can see in which city they bought it or where they're from. I can even see their phone number. So now if I hover over Adina, it's giving me additional information. It can tell me that Adina bought 14,999 from us. It's telling us that her first name, of course, is Adina, her last name is Blake, and she comes from Ballston Spa. Maybe I'd like to see the phone number if she has one. Obviously, it's not indicating it to us. So let's maybe take out the phone number. Let's see in which state she lives. So let's put there. If I hover over Adina, it's telling me it's in New York and it's Ballston Spa. And this is where tooltips come in place. It's giving me additional information when a mouse hovers over that. So for me as a sales manager, I think this is cool. I like it like this. Maybe let's make it a little bit smaller. Maybe let's make it like this because I want to place something very cool in here. So now that I've got my clients or which are good clients, I've got my sales trends, I've got my sales reps. Let's maybe place the sales reps here so that they're all aligned to it. Maybe I can apply more information to it later. It doesn't mean if you create it now, it's set in stone. I can always edit and manipulate it later. But what I want to do is I want to place a geographical map of where all my sales took place. So in Power BI, there are 3. That's going to be your map, it's going to be your field map, and of course, it's going to be your AgriGIS. Let's maybe work with the field map. So what the field map does, it takes the area that you identify and it fills it up with the relevant information. So let me just maybe make this a little bit smaller. And now I can take this. So my location, Power BI is smart like that. It will automatically identify the city name or, of course, the state name. So if I were to choose city, it will automatically place it by location. Now we just leave it because it needs to group it by something. So now it's loading and it's working on the maps. And now it's going to find all of them in North America. But now it's already moving there, but it doesn't know about what I want to identify it by. I want to see based on total sales value. So if I go list price and I take the legend, no, that's wrong. Let's maybe just do this one. I think this is the wrong one, everybody. Let me just use this one. That's the one I was looking for. So there's my city. And of course, I want to take it the size by the list price. Apologies, that's the wrong one for that purpose. So now what it does is I can see that there's sales in America and some people bought maybe online from Europe. I didn't even really know that. So that means someone's really overperforming. That's good news. Maybe we're expanding our footprint. So let's have a look in North America. So based on the size of the bubble, it's going to show me the amount that was sold. So let's maybe have a look. So there's a lot of congestion here. This is the New York State area. And if I can go through, I can drill through more and more and more. And right here in New York, we can see we've got a lot of sales. There's a nice big bubble. Who's that? That is in the city of Smithtown. And that's the list price of $52,791. That is how much was sold there. But it's just telling me the city and how much was sold. Maybe I want to see some more information. Maybe I want to see who was the sales rep there or who was the salesperson. So once again, because our model is joined perfectly together, we can apply additional information towards it. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to choose my salesperson. So let's look at the sales staff. And I'm going to say I want to see it based on first name, last name, and let's just put the staff ID. So let's go all the way back to New York. And I'm going to go back to that same one we went to just now. And there's that big bubble and voila. Now I know where it was sold, the city, how much was sold, the staff number or the staff ID, and I've got the name, Bernadine, and Bernadine Boyer was the sales rep there. So why do I want to illustrate this? This is the fundamentals of what Power BI or BI tools or new age analytics can do. You can just keep giving it information, and applying that information correctly can give you amazing insights. This webinar has been going on for about half an hour to 40 minutes now, roughly, I guess. And look at the amount of information we've already portrayed, from nothing to a visual aspect, a visual presentation, insights. I've got information that I, as a sales manager, can start using. So these are just some of the nice functionalities you can apply. So maybe let's apply histogram, the most famous one, or the bar chart. Let's maybe do a bar chart and let's maybe show something more related to the clients. Or what else do we have? We've got brands, we've got stocks. Let's see what other information we can use as a last measure or a last metric. We've got brands. Maybe I want to see by which brand sold the best. This is a good indication. So I'm going to take my histogram, I'm going to make it bigger. Sorry, it's also called the bar graph. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. And now I'm going to apply some data to it, some dimensions and measures. So let's go to the brands. I want to see the brand name. Boom, it's there, but it doesn't know what to compare to by. So now I'm going to go down to, maybe I want to see quantity. Let's see what that shows us. You see, the Trek bicycle and the others, Electra and Sun, it's just telling me how much was sold. But maybe it's more important for me as a sales manager to see how much was sold. So let's maybe put the list price rather there. And if I place it there, and then voila, we can compare it basically because I did it stacked one. So clustered chart, bar chart. So it's going to give it to us like this. I don't want to see that. I just want to see the list price. Boom. So now I can see obviously which are my big outliers. It's just indicating to me that Trek is the biggest selling point and we need to focus on them. This is just a nice indication of what can be done and how you can illustrate different dimensions within the system. So the last thing I just want to focus on is maybe just a little bit of formatting. So the formatting, it does take quite some time in a BI tool, as you have to individually go into everyone and change the font, the color, the size, how you want it to display and everything. But because we're working with a very well-modeled data set, maybe I want to start off by, I don't like the price here. Maybe you want to change it to dollars, to pounds, or even South African rands. So I can go to my data set, and I don't necessarily have to go manually in like in Excel and change everyone or highlight the whole row and then change it. But in Power BI, I can do it just like this. I can go to my sales order items, list price, change the value there, and I can choose the South African rands. And then everything will change. And when I go back, everything changed immediately. But not just for what you see, it's also on your tooltips. So if you go over, it will tell you what its value is. And if I go here, it will show the value with the currency applied to it. So last but not least, let's maybe create a text box and we can just say that sales dashboard for RSA bikes as an example. So it's just a little business I've always wanted. And now I can just maybe just illustrate how well it will do one day. And now I can just move it around. I can just track it here and I can say, let's make it nice and big and bold, 28. Let's make it dark, let's bold it out. And now I've given it a title. If I want to move it around, let's maybe do it like this. Let's maybe do it under each other. I don't like it like this. I want it like that. Let's maybe put that 4 there. And there we go. So that's it. So it is rather simple. It's not too difficult to do. There is some experience required in understanding how everything comes together. But to give an illustration, someone with my experience, I created this within half an hour to 40 minutes. From the first step, which is connecting to the source, bringing the source to Power BI, doing minor manipulations, changing the date values, extracting the year from the date, and then, of course, working with the various types of visualizations. So if you want to come back to this report, let's say tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and you don't like this histogram or the bar chart anymore, you don't necessarily have to delete it and everything. The data is still connected to it. You can just change it. I don't want a pie chart now. I want a waterfall chart. I want a scatter graph. But if you don't like any of these, you can simply go back to it and it will just keep remembering how you want it. So once you've completed, now comes the question, how does this become cloud-based? How do I use it in the cloud? What is this whole cloud reporting thing? Or what is this word that they're talking about? This is where Power BI becomes even more powerful. So once you've done with your report, it's basically just a file. Sure, you can distribute that file just like Excel days and everything. You can give the file to this person and to that person. They can all analyze and check what's happening. But now comes the question, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to send this file to everybody. I want to work with the file. I don't want anybody to change it. This is where you do the publish functionality. So publish this report to Power BI on the web. So first it's going to ask you to save your changes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to save it on my desktop. And I'm just going to say sales demo. And it's going to save it as a PBIX file, which is a Power BI file. And I'm going to say save. So notice what it's going to do now. Now it's going to open up all these various workplaces. So the workspaces or the workplaces is, we're going to discuss this in the next webinar, is how to work with the Power BI portal. So firstly, you need to be logged in with your Microsoft account, usually your email address, with your email address password. That's how you connected within your Office 365 environment at your business. Which is another topic we can also elaborate on next time, which is the collaboration capabilities of Power BI. How reports can be shared, how they can be consumed or used. So once you're done with your report, you simply publish it to your desired workspace, and within a few seconds, depending on the size of it, it's loaded and it's ready for consumption in the cloud. And how do you access it in the cloud? It's as simple as this. You can simply go to the Power BI portal and you click on Power BI sign in. And where it says sign in, it will take you to where your workspace of your place is. And then it will show you all the relevant workspaces that you work with. And once the report has been published, you simply click on it and it's instant. Everything is instantaneous with the new cloud analytics. Okay, so I would just like to say thank you very much for joining today's session. And I urge you to share this as well, because it's great sharing knowledge. It's very nice. And then people can get to know about what's really out there. And then we're not just focusing on static reporting, we can do interactive reporting as well. Thank you very much.